said, "You don't have a real life anyway, so you'll be handling the new baby full-time." My brother and his pregnant wife actually cheered. It didn't matter to them that this was baby number 5, or that they already owed me thousands of dollars for babysitting the first 4 for free. To my family, my remote tech career, my quiet apartment, and my single status meant my time belonged entirely to them. My father already had the scheduling calendar printed out, completely volunteering my life away without my consent. My lawyer told me to pack my bags and disappear, but I decided to play along instead. I sat through their celebratory dinner, smiled warmly, and pulled out my phone to show them just one single document. The room froze, my sister-in-law dropped her glass, and my brother turned completely white. They thought they were enslaving me. They didn't realize they'd just signed their own financial ruin. My name is Lexi, and at 33 years old, I finally thought I had built a life I could be proud of. I had a beautiful, quiet apartment, a thriving career as a remote software analyst, and a sense of peace I'd spent my entire 20s fighting for. But to my family, my single status and work-from-home schedule didn't mean I was successful. It just meant I was available. That reality crashed down on me during a mandatory Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My brother, Leo, and his wife, Chloe, clinked their glasses together, grinning like they had just won the lottery. "We have big news," Leo announced proudly. "Baby number 5 is on the way." Before I could even process the sheer chaos of them adding a 5th child to their already drowning household, my mother's eyes locked onto mine with a cold, unsettling sharpness. She didn't look happy for them. She looked like an employer who had just found a solution to a staffing problem. "Well, Lexi," Mom said, her voice dripping with an agonizingly patronizing tone. "It's a good thing you don't have a real life anyway. You'll be taking over as the full-time, live-in nanny once the baby arrives. We've already cleared space in Leo's basement for your desk." Before we continue down this rabbit hole of family entitlement, I'm incredibly curious about who is listening to my journey today. Please pause for a moment, drop a comment below with the city or country you're watching from, and let's see just how far my story has reached. To understand how my mother could say something so incredibly cruel with a straight face, you have to understand the toxic dynamic of the Whitaker family. Leo had always been the golden child. Growing up, his mistakes were called learning experiences, while my achievements were treated as basic obligations. For the past 7 years, I had been quietly paying an unspoken family tax. Whenever Leo and Chloe wanted a weekend getaway, a date night, or simply a break from the overwhelming noise of their 4 kids, my phone would buzz. It wasn't an invitation, it was a demand masquerading as an emergency. I spent my late 20s canceling dinner dates, missing weekend trips with my actual friends, and waking up at dawn to pack school lunches, all for 0 pay. "We're family, Lexi. We don't count pennies." My father would always lecture whenever I gently brought up compensation. But while they weren't counting, I certainly was. Deep inside a secure cloud drive on my laptop, I maintained an itemized, mathematically flawless log of every single hour I had spent nannying their children, paired with standard local babysitting rates. I also kept the digital receipts for the thousands of dollars in temporary loans I'd given Leo for groceries and diapers, loans he solemnly swore he'd pay back the following week, but conveniently forgot. They genuinely believed I was a spineless pushover who would indefinitely absorb their financial and emotional debt. They had no idea I was building a ledger. Instead of slamming my hands on the table and causing a useless scene, I forced a tight, compliant smile and nodded. "I understand. Let me look at my work schedule this week and figure out how to transition my office equipment," I said softly. The sigh of relief around the table was instantaneous, accompanied by triumphant, smug smirks from Leo and Chloe. I needed to buy myself exactly 1 week of absolute compliance to plan my exit, but the universe decided to hand me a weapon instead. A few days later, my parents asked me to house sit while they had a perfect opportunity to pack up the childhood items I wanted to save. While looking for an old photo album in my father's home office, I needed a paperclip from his heavy oak filing cabinet. As I pulled the drawer open, a thick, brightly colored folder caught my eye. It was labeled with my brother's name, but right next to it was a document from a major lending bank bearing my own social security number. With trembling fingers, I opened it. What I found made my blood run entirely cold. My parents hadn't just volunteered my time. They had secretly forged my signature as a cosigner and primary financial guarantor on Leo's massive, adjustable-rate mortgage. They had used my spotless credit and tech industry income to secure a house they couldn't afford, legally binding my financial future to their golden child's sinking ship. The initial shock quickly crystallized into a cold, sharp rage. I didn't cry, and I didn't confront them. Instead, I used my phone to take crystal-clear, high-resolution scans of every single page of that fraudulent loan application, making sure the forged signature was perfectly captured. The very next morning, I bypassed my family's usual legal connections and booked an urgent consultation with a ruthless financial and real estate attorney named Arthur Vance. Sitting in Arthur's office, watching his eyes narrow as he reviewed the documents, felt like watching a predator lock onto its prey. "This is blatant identity theft, bank fraud, and grand larceny," Arthur said, tapping the forged pages. "You could easily put your parents and brother in prison. Or we can use this to completely dismantle them financially and cut you clean from their toxic web forever." I chose the latter. Together, we spent the next 48 hours drafting a comprehensive legal countermaneuver. We compiled my itemized nannying ledger, the unpaid personal loans, and a legally binding fraud affidavit. Arthur then prepared a specialized omnibus settlement agreement that would legally force Leo to forfeit his equity to cover his debts to me, while completely removing my name from the mortgage liabilities. With the trap fully loaded, I sent a cheerful group text to my family. "Let's all meet for dinner this Friday at Lombard Steakhouse to sign the nanny contract and celebrate my move into Leo's basement." They fell for it instantly. Lombard Steakhouse was bathed in warm, low lighting, but the atmosphere at our table was thick with unearned arrogance. Leo and Chloe sat across from me, looking like royalty, while my parents beamed from the head of the table. Before the appetizers even arrived, Leo slid a typed, laminated document across the white tablecloth toward me. It was a rigorous schedule detailing my new daily chores, baby monitoring shifts, and a strict set of household rules for my upcoming life in their basement. "We just want to make sure boundaries are clear, Lexi," Chloe said, flashing a smug, artificial smile. My mother nodded in agreement, leaning forward to add, "You really should be grateful, dear. We are giving your life a real purpose. Since you don't have a real career or a family of your own, this is the best thing for you." I didn't blink. I simply took a slow sip of my water, set the glass down, and reached into my purse. "Actually, I have some paperwork for you to review first," I said smoothly. I unlocked my phone and pulled up the encrypted digital file Arthur had finalized, sliding the screen directly into the center of the table. The text displayed was not a nanny contract. It was a formal fraud affidavit, paired with an immediate asset freeze notice and a legal demand for $45,000 in back pay and forged loan damages. The transition in the room was instantaneous. The smug smiles vanished. Leo grabbed the phone, his eyes scanning the legal headers, and his face turned a ghostly, translucent white. Chloe gasped, dropping her wine glass, which shattered loudly against her plate. The room froze as they realized their entire financial trap had just violently snapped shut on them instead. "What is the meaning of this, Lexi?" my father demanded, his voice shaking as he stared at the legal documents. I looked him dead in the eye and replied, "The meaning is that I know about the forged mortgage. You have exactly 24 hours to sign Arthur's settlement, or the bank and the police get the fraud affidavit." The days that followed were a chaotic blur of desperation and panic. My phone lit up constantly with agonizing, guilt-tripping text messages from my mother. She called me heartless, selfish, and accused me of ruining my own brother's life over a minor family misunderstanding. But the wall of compliance I had maintained for years was officially gone. I blocked their numbers and let Arthur handle the screaming. Because the fraudulent signature on Leo's adjustable-rate mortgage had been flagged, the bank immediately revoked the loan approval. Leo and Chloe were forced to face the harsh reality of their overextended lifestyle. They had to downsize drastically, moving out of their large house and into a cramped, 3-bedroom rental property. To save the golden child from facing actual prison time for grand larceny and bank fraud, my parents were forced to deplete their own carefully guarded retirement savings to completely clear Leo's legal mess and pay off the debts they owed me. They had spent decades treating my time and money as their personal property, but they finally learned the hard way what volunteering someone else's life actually costs. They wanted a full-time servant to bear the weight of their bad choices, but in the end, they were left holding the wreckage of their own greed. 3 months after that explosive dinner, I packed up my quiet apartment, upgraded my remote tech role to a senior director position, and moved to a beautiful, sunlit cottage in Carmel by the Sea. The ocean breeze carries a peace I haven't felt in my entire life. I completely cut contact with my parents, Leo and Chloe. I blocked their emails, changed my social media handles, and finally built an impenetrable boundary around the life I worked so hard to create. For the first time in 33 years, my time belongs entirely to me. My weekends aren't spent changing diapers for a family that disrespects me. They're spent walking along the beach, reading in local coffee shops, and experiencing what a truly real life feels like. I am no longer the backup plan for people who refuse to plan for themselves. Now, as I sit here looking out at the Pacific Ocean, I am deeply curious about your thoughts on how everything unfolded. What would you have done if your own parents forged your name on a massive loan just to protect the golden child? Would you have handed them over to the police? Or would you have played the long game like I did? Let me know. I am leaving 2 other incredible stories on the final screen for everyone, and they will definitely surprise you.